It's yours now.
What is?
The Darksaber.
Much of The Mandalorian's current plot revolves around the Darksaber, an ancient, legendary black-bladed lightsaber crafted by the first Mandalorian Jedi, Tar Vizsla. Always a source of conflict, it's bounced between the Jedi Order and the Vizsla clan before being won in battle by one-time Sith Lord Darth Maul, who became leader of a Mandalorian terrorist cell called the Death Watch. But Maul in turn lost the Darksaber in battle to his master Darth Sidious, a.k.a. Emperor Sheev Palpatine, who imprisoned Maul after the defeat. The Death Watch recovered the Darksaber and rescued Maul, who used the weapon in several key battles like the Battle of Ord Mantell and the Second Battle of Dathomir. Eventually, Sabine Wren took the Darksaber from the Night Sisters on Dathomir and trained with it under the Jedi Kanan Jarrus. Wren later presented the Darksaber to Bo-Katan Kryze, sister of the late Mandalorian pacifist leader Satine Kryze, who she deemed the best person to lead Mandalore. The clans of Mandalore agreed.
Now I understand why the saber came to me. It came to me so I could pass it to you.
This event eventually led to a massive attack on Mandalore by the Empire known as the Great Purge, a.k.a.
They lost their way, and we lost our world.
The Night of 1,000 Tears. Statistically, 1,000 tears is not enough crying if an entire planet gets massacred, but that's what it's called, and that's what happened. In one night, the Empire blanket-bombed and blasted Mandalore and dispatched KX series droids to take out any survivors. And what led up to this? Okay, let's get into it a little more. Back in the Clone Wars era, the planet of Mandalore was ruled by Maul and the Death Watch, after he seized ruling power from Duchess Satine, along with the Darksaber from Pre Vizsla, by cutting his head off. Mandalore was among Maul's many holdings in his criminal enterprises / grab for power. Long story short, Maul had several outstanding issues with his former Sith Master Sidious, and it eventually resulted in the Republic overthrowing him from Mandalore. With Satine dead at the hands of Maul and the Darksaber, Bo-Katan, who led the Mandalorians that would not pledge fealty to Maul, was named regent of the planet by the Jedi Council. However, shortly after that happened, a little thing called Order 66 occurred, and the Jedi themselves were massacred almost entirely out of existence, while the Republic transformed into the Empire, a more transparently evil ruling organization. Refusing to bend the knee to the Emperor, Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian Resistance found themselves in a Mandalorian civil war of sorts, resulting in Sabine Wren presenting the Darksaber to Bo-Katan in an attempt at unification. The very strict, some would say, cultish Mandalorian faction, the Children of the Watch, were not having this, since Bo-Katan had not won the saber in battle, and thus they believed her rule was a curse upon Mandalore, and so they bounced to the moon of Concordia. It's good for them they did that though, because soon came the bombing and desolation of the planet. All remaining Mandalorians were scattered to the galaxy, and the once great civilization was in tatters. Bo-Katan lost possession of the Darksaber, Moff Gideon eventually got his hands on it, everything in the original Star Wars trilogy happened, and then Din Djarin's story of reluctant daddyism began in earnest. Wow, I can't believe I zoomed over the original trilogy like that, but this story is about the Mandalorian, so... It's been a while since we first met the unassuming Season 1 version of Din Djarin, so let's have a refresher. Back when Din had a pretty basic non-Beskar kit, he was an average, if not very reliable member of the Bounty Hunters Guild, taking missions from one Greef Karga. He was also a member of a strict and small Mandalorian sect, yes, the Children of the Watch, checking in with the armorer from time to time. Wanting a big score, he took a job from the totally not nefarious, not at all Empire sympathizer, the Client, to bring him an extremely precious and mysterious asset in exchange for precious Beskar. Of course, that asset was the child, and like the rest of us, Din became obsessed the second he set eyes on him. Din redirects his whole trajectory to protect Grogu, which he does with the help of the honest and humble farmer Queel and murderous assassin droid IG-11. Din remembers his own loss of his parents and becoming a Mandalorian foundling, and bonds with the child, who we learn through a dangerous Mudhorn adventure is Force sensitive. they become a dyad. I mean, a clan of 2. However, Din still does his job, which is to say, he hands the child over to the client. He learns the client and an Imperial doctor are going to do terrible experiments on the child, so he breaks back in and blasts his way through the stormtroopers, the client, and even the doctor to save the little guy. On his own with the child, wolf and cub style, Din makes friends with former rebellion mercenary Cara Dune, saves a village, makes friends with Tatooine mechanic Peli Motto, and kills Fennec Shand. However, in case you forgot, the client's boss, aka Imperial forces led by Moff Gideon, are still after the baby. Din, Cara, Greef, a reprogrammed IG-11, and Queel stand against them, with Queel and IG-11 ultimately falling. The group under heavy fire escape underground in Navarro, leading them to the armorer who kicks Stormtrooper ass. After said ass kicking, she gives Din the last piece of Beskar armor she crafted for him, and Din uses it and everything he's learned to take down Moff Gideon's TIE fighter. Din and the child get away and begin a new mission to return the baby to his people. But Moff Gideon arises from his TIE fighter not only alive, but wielding the legendary Darksaber.
I know this is no place for a child. Wherever I go, he goes.
Sometime later, Din spots a man wearing very familiar armor. Could it be Boba Fett? Or even another of his order? Nope! It's Cobb Vanth, who needs Din's help with a crate dragon problem on Tatooine, which he and some Tusken Raiders help solve, leaving Din with the armor as payment. Later, Din offers passage on the Razor Crest to a frog-like woman in exchange for valuable information on other Mandalorians, but not before having a run-in with some Resistance X-Wing pilots, and the child eats so many of the frog woman's eggs.
No.
Din eventually does run into more Mandalorians led by Bo-Katan. We, the audience, then realize Din was raised in a weird cult of Mandalorian culture, and his ideals, such as never removing one's helmet around another living being, are not universally shared. Some Mandalorians are cool. Bo-Katan is on a quest to obtain the Darksaber and all the power it brings and restore Mandalore to its once glory as its leader, rectifying her part in past mistakes. After helping her on her path to find the Darksaber, she helps Din in his, directing him to a Jedi, one Ahsoka Tano. Taking a break to repair the Razor Crest once again, Din returns to Navarro, where he and his old friends Cara Dune and Greef Karga discover cloning tanks in a hidden Imperial facility, indicating extensive synthetic force research by the Imperials, meaning the child is still in great danger. Speaking of, he's become a general nuisance at the local school. We finally meet the Jedi, or citizen, Ahsoka, who is 1, looking for Admiral Thrawn for some unfinished business, and 2, reveals the child's true name, Grogu. Din helps Ahsoka and she rewards him with a Beskar spear, and while he intends to pass Grogu off to her custody for his own good and training, she refuses and instead directs him to a Seeing Stone so Grogu can decide his own fate. Boba Fett, who spotted Din with his own iconic armor, comes looking for it, alongside a revived Fennec Shand. In exchange for the armor, Boba and Fennec help protect Grogu from attackers during the Seeing Stone Force ritual, which is interrupted by Gideon kidnapping a weakened Grogu. Also, the Razor Crest gets blown up for good this time. And Boba and Fennec vow to help Din until Grogu is safe with him again. On the path to getting Grogu back, he ends up going against his Mandalorian creed and shows his unhelmeted face to people. It's incredibly clear that his adopted son means more to him than anything, including his core beliefs. Once he finds Gideon's location, the whole squad mounts up for a daring rescue. Finally, it comes down to a face-to-face between Din and Gideon, and many Dark Troopers. After dispatching them, Din closes in on Gideon, who threatens Grogu with the Darksaber, which he importantly notes that being its true wielder grants rightful ownership of the Mandalorian throne. Din doesn't care, he only wants Grogu, but is forced into dueling. Din subdues Gideon without killing him, but then the unfortunate realization dawns on everyone. The only way Bo-Katan can have the Darksaber and accomplish her goal is by defeating Din in battle, which pits them against each other. And I guess it can't just be a silly fight where Din takes a dive on purpose. Suddenly, more Dark Troopers descend, and it seems like it's game over. Until the GOAT shows up! Luke Skywalker arrives to claim Grogu and teach him the ways of the Jedi. They reluctantly part ways, and Din breaks down after putting on a brave face for Grogu's sake. After shooting Bib Fortuna dead and claiming Mos Espa for himself, Boba Fett has, difficulties holding the area and needs reinforcements. Is the show The Mandalorian Season 2.5? A little bit, yeah. Din delivers a gangster's head in order to find his clan, all 2 of them. The armorer talks about Bo-Katan's cursed history while reforging the Beskar spear into foundling armor for Grogu. Din trains with the Darksaber, and he's pretty awful at it. Nonetheless, he destroys Paz Vizsla in a duel, but in that same turn, he tells on himself for having removed his helmet, which is against his clan's rules, casting him out as a Mandalorian.
Then you are a Mandalorian no more.
It seems like he has no way back except to redeem himself in the destroyed mines of Mandalore. Din reluctantly accepts a new ship to replace the Razor Crest from Peli Motto, a modified N1 starfighter from the prequel era. And when Fennec comes asking for his help, he agrees to it without pay. Next we see him, Din lands on a green forested world looking for Luke Skywalker, Grogu's Jedi teacher. Instead, he comes across Ahsoka, who lets him know that his bond with Grogu is very strong and difficult to get rid of, which is necessary to become a Jedi. With a heavy heart, he stops himself from reaching out to Grogu, yielding the foundling armor he commissioned to Ahsoka to give to him instead. Din returns to Tatooine, rejoining Boba Fett's group after recruiting the likes of Cobb Vanth and Freetown to help Fett's cause. During the battle for Mos Espa that follows, Din faces a Scorpionic droid that could withstand the Darksaber. Needing to get away, Din gets picked up by a rickshaw droid cart that also happens to be carrying Grogu! Grogu apparently chose his bond with Din over continued Jedi training, and with his Force powers, is able to change the course of the battle. Following the conclusion of the battle on Tatooine, Din and Grogu take off in the N1 starfighter, jumping to light speed at Grogu's request. We know they're headed toward the ruined domes of Mandalore to restore Din's status as a Mandalorian according to his sect, and deal with the issue of succession of the Mandalorian throne. And that's where we leave them before the Mandalorian 3. Mando and Grogu are reunited and will face the eventuality that Din's the successor to Mandalore, given his reluctant, rightful ownership of the Darksaber. We know Bo-Katan wants the saber and the title for herself, but there could be many other dangers in the path, like Moff Gideon and the remnants of the Empire. This looks like a recipe for another Night of 1,000 Tears, but what are they gonna do? Bomb the ashes? And it remains to be seen if Mandalore can actually be restored, if Din Djarin is the one to do it, and most importantly to him, what Grogu's fate will be. They're all up in the air as we head into the next chapters of The Mandalorian. Thanks for watching, I'm Kim Horcher, and for more Mando, here's all of Season 2 in 17 minutes, so check that out, and don't forget to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.